With us, we are so proud to have Dr. Herb London, who is the president of the London Center for Policy Research. The London Center for Policy Research, or LCPR, has been organized to engage in research on the key policy issues of our time: national security, energy, and risk analysis. We've got the midterms coming up. We've got a lot of things taking place right now. So Dr. Herb London is with us to talk about, well, not the least of which, the 2018 midterm. He's prepared to offer us the 2018 midterm analysis. And by the way, if you want to read a great book about the so-called, remember, the Leading from Behind? Well, there's a book by the same title, Leading from Behind, the Obama Doctrine and the U.S. Retreat from International Affairs, written by Dr. Herb London. This is a fantastic book. I cannot recommend it any higher than I am right now. It really lays bare the leading from behind foreign policy. And Dr. London has written the fact that when Obama said he was intent on change, scarcely anyone imagined the magnitude of that change. And that book addresses just that. So we're going to put a link on the program description to that book. I highly recommend it. Again, Leading from Behind, the Obama Doctrine and the U.S. Retreat from International Affairs. But with us right now, Dr. Herb London, again, the president of the London Center for Policy Research. Just saw him on the Varney Company from a couple of months ago talking about the resignation of UK Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson. Remember when that happened? It sent some waves. Anyway, Dr. London, thanks for joining us, sir.
Pleasure to be with you.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. Can we start with your analysis, if you don't mind, of the upcoming midterms? Let's do that.
Well, first of all, let me make the following point. Every day there's a new news account. One would assume that there is no longer a foreign policy leadership, and that is absurd. You have the Secretary of Defense, you have John Bolton, you have, of course, the Secretary of State, all of whom I think are in a position of understanding the need for the kind of changes that are occurring in foreign policy. So I do not think that the transition will be at all difficult. And in a couple of days, this will all be forgotten. 6 months ago, Nikki Haley indicated to the President of the United States that she would be leaving. So this is no surprise. The only surprise is the way in which the press has responded. But by and large, I think that the country is in reasonably good shape on the foreign policy front.
You know, after reading your book, and again, your book, Leading from Behind, the way you laid out the foreign policy, or at least Obama's foreign policy, comparing, at least in my view, as I compare it to today, I'm absolutely more confident today than ever before. So I appreciate your analysis on or your weighing in on the Nikki Haley resignation or announcement. So I'm confident, as you are, that things are going to be just fine. Do you have any thoughts as to who might assume that position?
Well, there are any number of potential candidates. My own feeling is that you're now looking at the senator from South Carolina, who I think has played a very significant role in uniting the Republicans. If, in fact, he's willing to take on this responsibility, he would be the right person to bring the Republican Party together.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Okay.
And Dr. London, real quick on the last on the Nikki Haley thing, I heard you mention how the press covers it. And I read a few reports today, and within 2 minutes of hearing she was resigning, I also found the information that this was 6 months, or earlier this year, she had said as much to President Trump she wasn't going to finish the year, and that was about 6 months ago. Have you seen reports of the press trying to play this differently, as though it's some kind of turmoil inside the White House or reaction to something?
Look, the Democratic Party has a goal in mind, and that is to attempt to demonstrate that there is nothing but confusion within the Trump White House. And this is nothing but another manifestation of that confusion. I don't think there's any truth to that. Nonetheless, that will be the argument that will be made by the Democratic leadership.
Yeah, and that goes with just about every decision, everything Trump does. We see the media coverage. I think the latest was 92% overall negative towards his presidency, and that's not going to change for anything. And bringing us up to the 2018 midterm and the potential outcomes, I'd like to stop and talk about this rising tide of violent rhetoric we see and divisiveness in this country, where we see calls for assassinations, you see calls for political violence. We actually have seen political violence. Do you see an increase in this type of behavior, or is it based on outcomes? You know, if the left or right wins the midterm election, how do you see the political violence playing out from here?
I think the Kavanaugh discussions have led to a different kind of America, an America where a potential coup d'etat is possible. In America where, in fact, you now have the hardening of the left and the belief on the part of many feminists that America has to change fundamentally, very, very different from the kind of America created by our founding fathers. That is a disturbing, very disturbing development. Nonetheless, it is the direction in which the country is moving. The United States today is a very different place from the United States of, say, 10 years ago. And I am deeply concerned about the role that these hardened leftists are now playing in American life.
Indeed. And would you ascribe this, or would you say that this is the legacy of Barack Hussein Obama, or do you believe that that statement perhaps is too superficial?
I think it's a combination of things. I think that you've got it partly right, since a former president did believe that the arc of history was moving in our direction and that you didn't have to do anything. And that many of these women have come to the conclusion that Barack Obama acted in precisely the right manner. Now we know that that is certainly not the case. We also know that the hardening of the left has taken place because of these hearings. And as a result of the hearings, there is the kind of partisanship in America that is unique, unprecedented, very, very different from anything we've encountered in the past.
Indeed, you're correct. You know, I'm going to toss this question out. Maybe it's kind of a question, left-handed question, but nonetheless, it interests me and it interests Joe. And as we spoke about this, we saw, and you referenced it, we saw a very interesting change, dynamic change in Lindsey Graham during that Kavanaugh nomination process. Can you, what's behind that change?
I think Lindsey Graham will come to the conclusion that the Democrats will do anything to undermine the Trump administration. I think Lindsey Graham has also taken on the role of leadership within the party as a result of the death of his close friend, John McCain. I do think that he's going to be playing a very different kind of role. Now, again, this is nothing more than speculation. I do think that Lindsey Graham will be the leader of the Republican Party.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, the Lindsey Graham or Lindsey Graham 2.0, as I like to say, it wouldn't be a bad decision given his most recent statements and performance. So as we're 28 days away from the midterms, all of the events you mentioned are forming, I believe, are affecting or have an impact on the midterm, the outcome. So what are we looking at here in your analysis of the 2018 midterms?
Donald Trump will win the 2018 election and will probably win the 2020 election. But this will only add to the general partisanship in America. If I believe that this would bring about some sort of understanding of American life and the basic principles of America, I would be very happy. But I do not think that is the case. I do think that what has happened, we have a hardening of positions in American life, and as a consequence, because of that hardening, it's going to be very, very difficult to determine what kind of groups will emerge during the 2018 and 2020 elections.
Now, do you say that it's hard to gauge because you don't know if it's a reaction to something maybe on the left?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I would term this, and I just thought of this, I would term this as outcome-based violence in a sense, but that's just my verbiage. Okay. Now.
Well, by the way, it may be very astute. We may be living through one of the most significant revolutions in world history. And I know that probably sounds exaggerated. This is not the Russian Revolution. This is not the French Revolution. But it is a revolution. And it's a revolution within the state itself. What does it mean to be a state? What does it mean to be a constitutional state? These are questions that were not addressed before. They are being addressed right now.
Indeed. You cover a lot. By the way, folks, our guest is Dr. Herb London, very highly acclaimed foreign policy analyst. He's the president of the London Center for Policy Research, which of course has been organized to engage in the research on key policy issues of our time. We're talking to an expert here, and we're talking to someone who knows the things from the inside out, basically. And sir, you obviously were aware and around, as I was, during the late 60s, the hard turn to the left, or what we saw, all of the rioting and such during the late 60s, early 70s, based on the cultural revolution, if you will, the political divide. Compared to that today, much worse, right? Or am I? If you compare the time periods, are we on much more?
I think it is much worse today because it is egregious today, and it's egregious as I indicated because of the hardcore position that has been taken by the left.
Right.
Even in those days, in 1968, you had a left, of course, that was very much intent on changing America, but a left that would at least engage in debate, discussion. That is no longer the case. There is no longer discussion. We have taken the conditions, the more extreme conditions within the university, and have transfused them into the general public. So that university life, which is of course extreme in itself, has now become the modus operandi for dealing with most political matters in America.
Wow. All right. And then you toss in all of the other factors. By the way, Dr. Herb London, London Center for Policy Research, londoncenter.org is the website. The book, his latest book, by the way, is Leading from Behind, the Obama Doctrine and the U.S. Retreat from International Affairs, UN and Education. That's the book to get an insight into the last 8 years with respect to foreign policy. Okay, now let's just assume for a moment that there's a Republican victory in the 2018 midterms, which I agree with. I think we're going to see a major victory there. What's going to be the response by that left? Obviously violence, but to what extent, sir?
Well, I think there'll be a lot of violence, but more significantly, I think you will see the creation of various feminist groups taking on a role in political life that they have not assumed in the past. Now, whether in fact it's the anti-Susan Collins group, or whatever group you're talking about, this is going to be a hardcore left-wing group organized to raise money and to do everything in its power to undermine the Trump administration.
How hardened do you believe is the administration against such external attacks? And I toss in the special counsel, in my view, witch hunt that's taking place. How hardened or how safe is this administration from external blows like that?
Well, right from the beginning, it was President Trump who indicated that there is a potential coup d'etat in the United States. Now we're seeing evidence of it. And in a variety of ways, internally and externally. And so I do think that this is a very dangerous period in American history.
I totally agree. Are we going to see any kind of movement, whether it's from the Office of the Inspector General or whether it's from the Attorney General? Are we going to see any kind of, I don't want to say prosecutions, but any kind of exposure to this coup that many Americans still deny?
Well, it depends on who your new Attorney General is.
Okay.
In fact, if I could make that prediction now, I could tell you an awful lot about the future.
The Attorney General now, Jeff Sessions, do you think he's got a happy future, or do you think he's got a future as Attorney General after the midterms, post-2018 midterms?
Oh, no. I think his days are numbered. I think there will be someone else. Lindsey Graham is a possible candidate, but there are any number of candidates within the Republican Party.
Okay. Very interesting. Again, Dr. Herb London is our guest. LondonCenter.org is his website. His book, of course, speaking about foreign policy, leading from behind the Obama Doctrine and retreat from U.S. retreat from international affairs. It's an eye-opening work. Dr. London, we only have a few minutes left. Closing thoughts on the state of affairs today, anything that we haven't covered that you would like to make sure that our audience is aware of?
When the founding fathers of this nation sat down and thought about what a new nation would look like, what a constitutional republic would look like, you had some of the great minds of the 18th century. And they thought very carefully about what kind of America you wanted. One that would not be extreme, one that would not lead to revolution, one that would, by and large, respect the will of the average American. We are moving very far from that position. I don't mean to sound lugubrious, but perhaps I am. My feeling is America today is different from the America of the 18th century.
Absolutely. Can we ever get back?
Not for the better.
Right. Do you ever see a course correction, though? I mean, is it possible, or are we too far down that road where there's no course correction possible?
I mean, if you told me that the nature of the state would continue to exist as it has, I would say, yes, there's the possibility of course correction. I don't see that happening. We do not have a state. The state is in disarray. There is no way of knowing how things will unfold. There is no way of predicting what kind of groups are going to emerge. There is no way of knowing whether, in fact, violence is just over the horizon. So I can't answer that question.
Okay. I understand. One last question, and it's not relevant, or it's not something we spoke about. You have on your website, LondonCenter.org, there's a video there where you speak about tariffs and China on making money with Charles Payne. That was your appearance. Your thoughts? Right. Your thoughts on the Donald Trump management of the U.S. Canada-Mexico, U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreements?
I think he's handled it very effectively. He's taken 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And every single time, there's been negotiation. People say, well, this administration is unwilling to negotiate. And yet it occurs every day. A new treaty has just been established. Donald Trump, I think, has come out of it looking very good indeed. So I don't understand the argument that has been made on this account.
I'm in agreement with you on that, with your assessment on that. Of course, who am I? But nonetheless, I see a lot of seemingly, the arguments coming from a lack of knowledge or whatever it might be, but certainly it doesn't seem like we're talking about the same series of agreements. But with that, we really appreciate your time, and we certainly hope you'll come back and join us again. Your book, Leading from Behind the Obama Doctrine and U.S. Retreat from International Affairs, it's still going great. Give us a taste. What our appetite for the information in that book, if you don't mind?
Well, I mean, the book is really designed to set the stage for the Trump administration. It is recognizing the fact we had a certain kind of partisanship during the Obama years. How can we set the stage to create an environment where there's greater trust in the United States, a certain level of confidence that did not exist when Obama was president of the United States? This is a major task by Trump. I think he has the right team. He has the right attitude. We are in good shape in the United States.